Hi. If you are working on a project with other people, you may want to put the contact information in a note, either on a resource or a task in Microsoft Project. This is a good way to communicate with each other about the important subjects of a project. You may use notes to give some information about a task or resource, to remind someone about an issue, and etc. Using the notes feature is quite useful, and in this lecture we will learn how to use it. As I said, you may use notes feature either on a resource or a task. Let's first learn how to use it for a task. Let's say we need to add a note about concrete works of building A. Let's double click on that task. Here, in the Task Information dialog box, we will click on the Notes tab. Here is the space where we will write notes about this task. Let's write our note. Here, you may change the font style and size if you want. You may also insert an object, like pictures or images, or attach a document by using this button. We won't make any change and we will leave it as it is. Just click on OK. As you see, there is a little notebook icon appeared in the Indicators field. If you are working on this project with other people, they will see that there is a note about this task and then they will read it. If you hover over the notebook icon, you will see our note about this task. Actually, here we don't see the full note. This is just a summary of it. Since our note is very short, we see it all. But if it wasn't short, we would at least see the first couple of lines over here. Then we would open up the Task Information dialog box by double clicking on the task and look at the full note over there. Now, let's say we need to add a note about our incidental costs resource. To do it, we will first go to the resource sheet. Here, we will again double click on the incidental costs resource. Now, in the resource information dialog box, we will click on the Notes tab. And here is the space where we will write our notes about this resource. Let's write our note then. Click on OK. As you see, again, we have the same icon about the note we have just added. If an issue is solved and the necessity of the note is gone, then we can clear that note. To do that, we will again double click on the task. Here, just select all of the tasks and clear it. After clicking on the OK button, you will see that the little icon over here is disappeared. So we understand that the note has gone. Let's go to the Gantt chart view. And that's it about the notes. In the next lecture, we will talk about the timeline. Thanks for watching. Hi. In this lecture, we are going to look at timeline view. Timeline view is available since Microsoft Project 2010, and it is a good way to represent the high-level tasks of a project. Let's see how we use the timeline view then. Here, this is the timeline view. You can always make it visible or non-visible here from the View tab. As you see, it is empty right now since we haven't added any task inside. We see the start date of our project and the finish date of our project. This green box represents the dates showing in the Gantt chart right now. If we move the scroll bar, this box also moves. Vice versa is also true. If we move this box, then the Gantt chart also moves. Since our aim to use the timeline view is to represent the high-level tasks of our project, it is a good idea to add the task groups inside. But please note that this is not a must. You may use the timeline view for any of the tasks. It is up to you. Now, let's add our task groups to the timeline. Let's say we want to add the excavation works task group to the timeline. To do that, let's right-click on this task. Here, we will click on Add to Timeline. As you see, excavation works task is added to the timeline. It is shown as a blue rectangular box. There is another way of adding a task to the timeline. To do that, you need to be sure that you are in the Timeline Tools Format tab. If you don't see this tab, just click on the timeline and it is going to be appeared. Here in the Insert group, click on the button named Existing Tasks. By using this dialog box, we can add any task to the timeline. We can reach this dialog box with a different way. To do that, let's click on the Cancel button. Now, we will right-click on the top space on the timeline view. Where you click on the timeline matters. For example, if you right-click on the middle of the timeline, you will get different options. Therefore, you need to right-click on the top space. Here, we will click on the option Insert Task. Then, we need to click on the Existing Tasks. As you see, this is the same dialog box. We can easily add or remove the tasks by using this dialog box. As you see, Excavation Works task is checked. This means we already have this task added to the timeline. If we uncheck it and click on OK, we see that it is removed from the timeline. Let's go back by clicking on the Existing Task button over here. I will check the high-level task groups only. It is a good idea to add the milestones to the timeline. To do that, I will click on all of the milestones we have. click on OK. To see the timeline full screen, just pull down the edge to the bottom. Here, we can change the format if we want. For example, we can move the milestones. Let's move them to the top of the timeline. If you pull the blue boxes like this, it is going to be displayed as call out. Let's pull it back. We can do the same thing by right-clicking on the box and clicking on the Display as Callout button. Again, if you right-click on it and click on the Display as Bar button, it is going to be displayed as a bar again. We could use the buttons over here to do the same thing. We can change the color and the font styles of the boxes too. Let's make the color of the excavation box yellow by clicking on it and choose the yellow color here inside the font group. We can use this timeline in our presentations, in our documents, or we can email it if we want. To do that, we can use this Copy Timeline button over here. As you see, it can be copied for emailing purposes or for using in a PowerPoint presentation. If you choose For Email option, it's going to be copied as a small image, and if you choose For Presentation option, it's going to be a medium-sized image. If you want to paste it in a different document, a Word document for example, we can use the full size option and it's going to be a large image. Let's go back to the Gantt chart view. So, that's it about timeline view for this lecture. In the next lecture, we will talk about the baseline. I will see you there. Thanks for watching. Hi. So far, we have created our project schedule, assigned resources to the tasks, and calculated the total cost of the project. These are the things that should be done before starting a project. Now, assume our project is just about to start. After it starts, we will need to track the activities, that is, we will need to compare the actuals with our planned values. While we enter the actual values into the project schedule, the dates, durations, work hours, and the costs will be changed. If we don't reserve a copy of our original plan, we will not have any data for comparing results. Therefore, we will need a copy of our project schedule. We will need to copy not only the dates, but also the information about resources and the cost of the tasks. We create baselines for this reason. A baseline provides us a copy of our project plan. It copies not only the schedule, but also the resource and the work hour information and the original cost information of the tasks. Therefore, we have to create a baseline before starting to track our project. In this lecture, we are going to learn how to create a baseline. Before creating the baseline of our project, let's open the baseline table to better understand what happens after creating a baseline. To do that, we will click on the View tab first. In the Data group, click on Tables. Here, we have the list of some tables, but we don't see the baseline table. Therefore, we will click on More Tables. Now, we will choose the baseline from the list. And then click on Apply. I will widen the table a little bit. As you see, we have baseline duration, baseline start, baseline finish, baseline work, and baseline cost columns. Since we haven't created our baseline yet, we don't have any value inside of the fields. Now, let's create a baseline and see what is going to change in this table. To create a baseline, let's click on the Project tab. In the Schedule group, we will click on Set Baseline button. As you see, we can not only create a baseline, but also clear a previously created baseline over here. To create our baseline, let's click on Set Baseline. This is the Set Baseline dialog box. Here, we have two options. We can set a baseline or we can set an interim plan. We will talk about interim plans later in the following lectures. Right now, we only concentrate on the baselines. Here, we can choose the baseline we want to set. As you see, there are 11 baselines available. Let's choose the baseline which is already chosen by default. We want to create a baseline for entire project. Since it is already chosen by default, we won't make any change over here. Let's click on OK. Now, we have created our baseline. These values are the same values of our original schedule. We generally want to see the baseline in the Gantt chart too. This will make it easier to comment on if we are doing well or not while we are tracking the project. To do that, let's right-click on the Gantt chart. Hover on Show Height Bar Styles. Hover on Baseline. Here is the list of baselines. Although we have created only one baseline, we see the name of the other baselines, which are empty right now. In a few minutes, in this lecture, I will talk about why we may need to create another baseline. We see the last saved date of the baseline. This will make us easier to choose the correct one among the baselines. We will click on the first baseline in the list. As you see, its last saved date is today. Therefore, this is the one that we are looking for. Here, these gray bars under each bar represent the baseline tasks. While we track the project, these gray bars will stay stable, although the blue and red ones may move. Then, by only looking at the bars, we will be able to make comments on the progress of the project. We will do that in the following lectures. We can create up to 11 baselines in Microsoft Project. But when should we create another baseline? During a project, there may always be minor changes. For example, if we think about our project, architects may decide to change the size of the windows. Such a case will make a little difference only, and we don't need to create another baseline in this kind of a situation. But what about this? One day, you got a call from an architect of the project. He says 2 new floors will be added to the building. You know, this will affect almost everything about your project. In such a case, you will need to create another baseline for the new project. As a conclusion, you don't need to create a new baseline for minor changes. If there are major changes, then you will need to create a new baseline. After creating a baseline, some new tasks may be added to the project, and you may need to add these new tasks to the existing baseline. For example, let's say we need to add a new activity to the backfilling and landscaping works of Building B. To add this new task, first I will go to the original Gantt chart view. Here, I will create our new activity. Let's type cleanup for the task name. Let's assume we need 100 working hours. It is going to be right after the task backfilling and landscaping works of Building B. Let's assign its resource. I will assign an excavator. Okay, let's go to the baseline table. As you see, since we haven't added this new task to the baseline, it doesn't have any value. To add it to the baseline, first I need to click on this new activity. Let's click on the View tab and then click on Set Baseline. We are going to set baseline. This is the baseline we want to add this new task. Now we will click on the option Selected Tasks. We have 2 checkboxes available. If we don't check any of them, Microsoft Project will add this task to the baseline, but it will not change its effects on its summary tasks. Click on OK to see what happens. It says, "Are you sure you want to overwrite the data in this baseline?" Click on Yes. As I said, cleanup task is added to the baseline, but the value of the subtasks didn't change. Since we want to change its subtasks too, we need to correct it. Let's go back to the Set Baseline dialog box then. We will again click on the Selected Tasks option. Here, if we check the From Subtasks into Selected Summary Tasks option, since we haven't selected any subtasks, it will not change anything. Therefore, we will click on To All Summary Tasks option. click on OK. Again, click on Yes. Now, as you see, all of the chains are applied to the subtasks of the project. Okay, what if we delete a task? Let's try it. I will delete the task that we have just created. To apply the changes to the baseline, we will go to the Set Baseline dialog box again. Set Baseline for the baseline named Baseline is selected for the entire project. Let's click on OK. Yes, we are sure. As you see, the effects of cleanup tasks are gone from the baseline. Now, as an exercise, I want you to add a new activity to the project. Its name, working hour, and etc. are up to you. Then, add this new task to the baseline. After adding and seeing the effects of it on your baseline, please delete this new task and update your baseline again. So, that's it about baselines. I will see you in the next lecture. Thanks for watching. In the previous lecture, we have talked about how to create a baseline. In this lecture, we will talk about how to replace a resource. As you remember, while creating the resources, we have created a generic resource. We said we didn't know the subcontractor companies, and after determining them, we would replace the generic resource with the new resources. In this lecture, we will learn how to do that. Let's go to the resource sheet. As you remember, we have created a resource named Concrete Workers. We have defined this resource as a generic resource. Now, suppose we have determined the subcontractor companies which are going to do the concrete works. Let's say our first company is CW and the other company is Concrete Co. We will define these companies as resources. To create this resource faster, I will copy and paste the Concrete Workers generic resource. In order to do that, let's right-click on the ID number of the Concrete Workers generic resource and click on Copy. Now, right-click on the first blank ID and click on Paste. Double-click on this new resource and uncheck the generic. Now, it is no more a generic resource. Let's change its name. Name of the resource is CW. It is a work resource. I will not change the initials and the group fields. Let's say maximum units and the rest of the information are all same with the generic resource, therefore I will not change anything. Now, let's copy and paste this resource to create the other resource. Let's change its name to be Concrete Co. Let's say everything is same with the other resource, so I will not change anything in these fields. Since we have defined the resources, now we can replace the generic resource Concrete Workers with these new resources. To do that, we will go to the Task Usage view. Click on Resource tab and click on Assign Resources. Let's scroll down until we see the Concrete Workers generic resource. Now, let's say the subcontractor CW will do the concrete works of building A, and the subcontractor Concrete Co will do the concrete works of building B. To replace the resources, we will select the related tasks. Let's click on Concrete Workers and then click on this Replace button. Here, we will select the resource to replace. Since CW will do the concrete works of building A, we will click on CW. Now, as you see, Concrete Workers generic resource is replaced by CW resource. Let's replace the resources of building B. We will select the related tasks. Then click on the Concrete Workers generic resource and click on Replace. This time, we will select the Concrete Co. And now we are done. In the next lecture, we will start to learn how to track a project. So, I will see you there. Thanks for watching. Hi. So far, we have created our project plan. After that, we took a copy of our project, that is, we have created a baseline of our project. Now, we are ready for tracking. After a project starts, we regularly need to check if everything is going okay or not. We need to check not only the dates of the activities, but also the work hours and cost of them. We need to measure and report the status of milestones, tasks, and activities required in achieving the planned results. We use Microsoft Projects tracking tools for this purpose. Tracking may be done in monthly, weekly, or even daily basis depending on the conditions of the project. If it is a small project, entering the actual values will be easier. Therefore, we can control it in weekly or daily basis. If it is a large project, there will be thousands of tasks. Entering actual values of tasks will take so much time. Therefore, you may need to control it in monthly basis. In this course, we will do the tracking in weekly basis, that is, we will enter the actual values of tasks every week. If you need to do it in monthly or daily basis, everything will be the same. The only difference is you will enter the actuals every month or every day. I think this much of talking is enough. Let's start our first lecture about tracking then. First of all, let's go to the Project Information dialog box. As you remember, we have used this box to determine the project start date. Here, I would like to take your attention to these current date and status date fields. We need to know the difference between them. Let's say you have the data of Friday of last week. Today is Wednesday and you are updating the project by using Friday's data. So your current date is the date of today and your status date is the date of Friday. Therefore, when we use the tracking feature of Microsoft Project, we will enter the data of the status date. Let's say 7 days is passed since the project starts. Therefore, since start date of our project is 17th of April, current date is 24th of April. Don't worry about this date that much since it doesn't take effect on the calculations. It just gives us information. But the status date does take effect on the calculations, therefore it is important. Let's say we get the data of 20th of April. Click on OK. By default, this green line represents the current date. Since tracking calculations are all done by using the status date, not the current date, it is better to see the line for the status date instead of current date. To hide the current date line, let's right-click on the Gantt chart and then choose Grid Lines. In the Line to Change section, select Current Date. From the Type drop-down, select the first option, which is blank. This will hide the current date line. Now, again in the Line to Change section, select Status Date. From the Type drop-down, select the line and pick up a color for this line. Let's say we want it to be orange. Click on OK. Now we see that current date line is hidden and status date line is visible. Microsoft Project has a special table design for tracking purpose. To open this table, let's click on the View tab first. We will click on Tables in the Data group and click on Tracking. As you see, we get the columns related to tracking. Let's see what we have here. These are the actual start and actual finish columns. As the names imply, these are the actual start and actual finish dates of tasks. There are two percentage complete columns as you see. First one is the percentage complete. This is about duration. If the duration of a task is 10 days for example, and if percentage complete of this task is 40%, this task has worked for 4 days since 40% of 10 days equals to 4 days. Therefore, we understand that 4 of 10 days is completed and 6 days left to complete to the total task. Second one is the physical percentage complete. This is not about duration. This is about how much physical work is done. To better understand this term, we need to refer to earned value management concepts. In order to not to cause any misunderstandings, I will hide this column right now. I will explain it in the Earned Value Management section in the future. These are the actual duration and the remaining duration columns. If 4 days have passed since a task has started, for example, then the actual duration of this task will be 4 days. If the planned duration of this task is 10 days, its remaining duration will be 6 days, which is the result of 10 minus 4. This is the actual cost column. As you understand, this is the money we have spent up to the status date. And this is the actual work column. Actual work hour of tasks will be seen here while we start to track the project. All of the fields are either 0 or empty since we haven't started to track. Although these columns are enough while we track our project, I will add a few more columns here in order to better understand what is going on when we change something. First of all, I will add baseline start and baseline finish columns. These are the start and finish dates of the baseline tasks. I will add the start and finish columns. These are the planned start and planned finish days. I will add the duration column nearby the actual duration column. These are the planned durations of tasks. I will add the cost and remaining cost columns. We will see the information about planned cost and the remaining cost of tasks over here. And finally, let's add the work and remaining work columns. As you guess, in the work column, we will see the planned work. And remaining work is the remaining work as its name implies. Now, we are ready. In the next lecture, we will learn how to update our project automatically. So, I will see you in that lecture. Thanks for watching. Hi! In the previous lecture, we have talked about some basics of progress updating. In this lecture, we will talk about how to update a project automatically. If a project is totally on track, that is, if everything is going exactly as planned in the schedule, then we can make the Microsoft project update our project automatically. In the last lecture, we have set our status date to be 20th of April. Let's say everything is going exactly as planned up to this date. We can automatically update our project then. To do that, in the Project tab, we will click on Update Project button. This is the Update Project dialog box. We will use this box to update our project. As you see, we have two options. The first option is Update work as complete true, and second option is Reschedule uncompleted work to start after. Since everything is going exactly as we planned, we will choose Update work as complete true option, which is already chosen by default. This state is the status state. If you want to change the status state, we can change it here. Since we have assumed our steady state to be 20th of April. I will not change this date. Now, we have two more options over here. Set 0 to 100% complete and set 0 or 100% complete only. If we choose the first option, percentage completion of tasks which are not completed yet will be shown as percentages less than 100%. If we choose the second option, percentage completion of tasks which are not completed yet will be shown as 0. Just to see what happens, I will choose this option first and click on OK. As you see, excavation work of building A has an actual start date right now, but the percentage complete value seems to be 0 since we have selected set 0 or 100% complete only option. Since this task is not completed yet, this value is 0. If it was completed, this value will be 100%. We want to see the percentage complete values of the tasks. Therefore, I will click on the Undo button. Then click on Update Project and choose the Set 0 to 100% complete option, which is already chosen by default. Click on OK. Now, what we have here? We have the actual start date, which is same as the planned start date. Since everything is just on schedule, this is what we expect. And percentage complete is 80%, and this is what we want to see after choosing set 0 to 100% complete option. As you see, actual duration is 4 days, since 4 days passed from the beginning of the excavation works of building A. Remaining duration is 1 day, since our total planned duration is 5 days and the actual duration is 4 days. 5 minus 4 equals to 1. This 80% is nothing but the result of 4 days, which is the actual duration, divided by 5 days, which is the total planned duration. Since this task hasn't been completed yet, we see the actual finish date to be NA. Let's scroll to the right a little bit to see the rest of the columns. As you see, we have the actual and remaining cost values over here. Since percentage complete of this task is 80%, you may think that actual cost should be 80% of the total planned cost. But it is not, as you see. If it was 80% of the total planned cost, actual cost of this task should be 2,304, but it is calculated as 2,430. To better understand how the actual cost is calculated, let's go to the task usage view. As you see, this task has two resources. First resource is fuel. If you remember, in the previous lectures, we have set the accrue at field to be start for this resource. Therefore, we have assumed all of the costs related to fuel of this task will be paid at the beginning of the task. This is why this task has a cost value at the beginning and it doesn't have any value for the rest of the days. The cost of the excavator resource is distributed equally each day, as you see. Now, since 4 days passed, our actual cost will be the summation of the cost values of the first 4 days. We have 4 times 450 plus 630. And we get 2430, which is same as what Microsoft Project has calculated. Since we now understand how the actual cost is calculated, I will turn back to the Gantt chart view. But we will come back here again. Here, we see that the actual work of this task is 36 hours. It seems like it is the 80% of the total work planned, which is 45. But it may not be always true for other tasks, since a resource may have a different working calendar. To better understand the calculation of the actual work, let's go back to the task usage view again. As we said before, we have two resources for this task: fuel and excavator. Material resources do not count any work hours. Therefore, we will calculate the total work hour of this task by adding the work hours of the excavator task, which is the only work resource for this activity. Therefore, 4 times 9, 36 is the actual work hours. I will go back to the Gantt chart again. On the Gantt chart, we see that there is a blue line added over here. This line represents the progress of this task. Since it is lined just up to this orange status line, we understand that this task is just on schedule. If it was faster than what we have planned, this blue progress line would pass the status line. If it was slower, this would stay behind the status line. We will see these situations in the following lectures. Now, we have learned how to automatically update our project. And we also know how Microsoft Project calculates the actual and the remaining values of the tasks. In the following lecture, we will learn how to update the project manually. I will see you there. Thanks for watching. In the previous lecture, we have learned how to automatically update our project. If everything is on schedule, then we can automatically update our project. But most of the time, being on schedule is very hard. In such cases, we need to manually update our project. In this lecture and the following one, we will learn how to update a project manually. I will talk about two approaches for manually updating a project: updating by using the work hours and updating by using the percentage complete data. For some projects, working hours can be followed precisely. In such projects, you know which resource worked for how much work hours. If you are working in such a project, then most probably you are able to get the work hour data or the resources regularly. For such projects, it is better to update the project by using these work hour data. This is the most precise way of updating your project. In this lecture, I will follow this approach. For some other projects, due to some reasons, it may be very hard to get the work hour data regularly. In such a case, you may update your project by using the percentage complete data of the tasks. In the next lecture, I will update the project by using this approach. Let's say 1 week is passed since we have updated our project. We have the progress data of the 27th of April. Therefore, we need to change the status date first. In the previous lecture, we did this in the project information dialog box. We can change the status date from here in the status group of the project tab. Just click on the date and change it as 27th of April. As you see, the status date line in the Gantt chart is moved to the right a little bit. By only looking at the Gantt chart, we can easily make comment on planned progress dates. We see that excavation work of Building A and Building B should be finished. We should start the first floor concrete works of Building A. Now, let's say excavation work of Building A is completed just as we planned. Since it is completed, I will type 45 in the actual work field of this task. As you see, its remaining work is 0 right now. Let's assume we have started the excavation work of Building B just as we planned. We have spent 36 work hours, but due to bad weather, we should stop working for 3 days. Let's say we need 9 more work hours in order to complete this task. Since we have started this task just as we planned, its actual start date will be same as its planned start date, which is the 22nd of April. I will enter this date to the actual start field. Let's scroll to the right until we see the work columns. We know the actual working hours, it is 36. Let's enter this actual work hours into the actual work field. As you see, Microsoft Project is automatically calculated the remaining work. It is 9, and this is also what we expect to see. Now, suppose first floor concrete works of Building A is started just as we planned. I will enter 22nd of April into the actual start field. Let's say, due to progress data we have, we know that 450 work hours is spent for this task. Therefore, I will type 450 into the actual work field. Again, as you see, remaining work is calculated automatically. Now, we have entered all the data we have. It is time to update our project according to the data we have just entered. we will click on the Update Project button over here. As you remember, in the previous lecture, we have chosen the first option to automatically update our project. This time, we will choose the Reschedule Uncompleted Work to Start After option in order to complete the manually updating process. We check the date and we confirm that it is same as our steady state and click on OK. Now let's see what we have here. Everything is great for excavation work or building A task. As you see, this gray baseline, light blue plant line and the dark blue progress line all having the same start and finish dates. Therefore, this task has been started and completed just as we have planned at the beginning. But for the excavation work of building B task, we can't say the same thing. As you see, there is a split for this task. This split tells us that because of some reason we couldn't work for 3 days. We still have some more work to do. And because of this, planned finish date of this activity is 3 days later than its baseline finish date. In this lecture, we have learned how to manually update a project by using work hour data. In the next lecture, we will talk about how to manually update a project by using percentage complete data. I will see you in the next lecture. Thanks for watching. In the previous lecture, we have learned how to update a project by using work hour data. That was the most precise way of doing the project track. Due to some reasons, it may be very hard to get the work hour data regularly. In such a case, you may update your project by using the percentage complete data of the tasks. In this lecture, we will learn how to update our project by using percentage complete data of the tasks. Let's say one more week is passed since we have updated our project. Before entering the progress data, it is better to change the status of the project. I will click on the status date and change the date as the 5th day of May. I assume that I have the percentage complete data of the tasks. Due to this information, I know that excavation works of building B is completed on 29th of April. As you see, its planned finish date is 28th of April. Due to some reasons, we have completed this task 1 day later on 29th of April. Just enter this date in the actual finish field of this task. As you see, its percentage complete is now 100%. From the progress data we have, assume we know that progress of first floor concrete works of building A is 50%. Just enter this value in the percentage complete field of this task. Now, as you see, planned start date of first floor walls of building A task is 4th of May. But assume it hasn't been started yet. I won't do anything because it hasn't been started yet. Since this is a critical activity, I know this will cause a problem and we will see what is going to happen in just a few minutes later. Assume, according to progress data we have, first floor concrete works of Building B starts just on schedule. As you see, its planned start date is 25th of April, therefore its actual start date will be the same. Let's say its progress is 20%. Now, we are done with the progress data we have. It is time to update the project then. Let's click on the Update Project button. We will choose the Reschedule Uncompleted Work to Start After option and click on OK. As you see, updating a project by using percentage complete data is easy. Okay, as we thought, we have a problem here. If you look at planned finish date of the project, we see that planned finish date of the project is 2 days later than it should be. Its baseline finish date is 19th of August, but its planned finish date is 21st of August. We need to do something to pull this planned finish date back to the baseline finish date. We will talk about what to do in the next lecture. So that's it for this lecture. I will see you in the next one. In the previous lecture, we have learned how to update a project by using percentage complete data. After updating our project, we saw that planned finish date of the project became 2 days later of the baseline finish date. This is a problem and needs to be fixed. In this lecture, we will talk about how to deal with this kind of delay problems. While trying to solve delay problems, we will concentrate on the tasks which are on the critical path. While doing that, tracking Gantt view will be helpful. So we will go to this view. Let's click on either the View tab or the Task tab. We can find Tracking Gantt view in either of these tabs. Click on Gantt chart and click on Tracking Gantt. If you scroll a little bit to the right, you will see that we have total select and free select columns available in this view. Now, what we will do is, we will click on the little triangle nearby the total select column. As you see, we can filter the tasks by their total select values. Since we will be dealing with critical tasks, of course, we will filter the tasks having 0 select. In order to deselect the 0 value total selects, we will click on the Select All checkbox. And then we will choose 0 days. Click on OK. As you see, tasks having 0 days of total select are filtered. We could do this filtering by an easier way. Let's undo the filtering by clicking on the Undo button once, and let's see the other way of doing that. Here in the Data group in the View tab, I will click on Filter. If you choose Critical, this will filter only the critical tasks. Okay, now we have the critical tasks of our project. First way of shortening a project is to start a task earlier. We can do it by adding leads to the tasks. If a task has a lag, then we can decrease its amount. While doing that, be careful to over-allocation problems. We will see how to deal with over-allocation problems later in this course. Now, let's assume we have talked to Plasco, which is the plastering works subcontractor, and they said they could start 1 day earlier to the first floor plastering works of Building B activity. So, we can start this task 1 day earlier. As you see, planned finish date of the whole project is 21st of August, Monday. Monday comes after Sunday, and we don't work on Sundays, as you remember. Therefore, if we shorten this project by 1 day, it will shorten by 2 days since we don't work on Sundays. Since our project is 2 days delayed, 1 day of shortening on the critical path will solve our problem. When we look at predecessor field of the first floor plastering works of Building B task, we see that it has 2 predecessors. Let's double click on this task to see what these predecessors are. Since we want to start this activity 1 day earlier, we need to decrease the lag amounts by 1 day. So, I will make the lag of first task 6 days and make the lag of the second task minus 1 days. Click on OK. As you see, start date of this task is now 1 day earlier, and the finish date of the project is 2 days earlier as we expect. So, we have solved the delaying problem. One other way of shortening a project is to increase the amount of resources. To explain how to do that, let's click on Undo button one time. Okay, now we are back to our problem again. Assume we again talk to Plasco, our plastering subcontractor, and they said they could not start earlier to the first floor plastering works of Building B, but they could increase the number of resources. Increasing the number of resources will shorten the duration of the task, and this will also solve our problem. To do that, let's double click on this task again and go to the Resources tab. We see that Plasco has 5 workers for this task. Let's add one more worker and let's see what happens. As you see, the duration of this task has decreased to 10 days and finishing date of the project is now 19th of August. Therefore, the delay problem is solved. There is one more way of solving delay problems. Instead of increasing the number of resources, working overtime will also decrease the duration of the task, and therefore this may also solve the delay problem. To explain how to do that, I will again undo what we did. Now, click on the View tab. And here, click on the Details button, which is in the Properties group. As you see, one more screen is added. This is the task details form. Here, we see some detailed information about the tasks. We see the resources, predecessors, and some other details about the selected task. It is possible to see some other information about the task. For example, if you right-click on the task details form and click on the cost option, you will see the cost information about the selected task. Now, what we will do is, we will again right-click on this form and click on the work option. If we click on the first floor plastering works of building B task, we get the working hour information about this task. This task has two resources, Plasco and travel expenses. Since travel expense is not a work resource, all of the fields are either empty or zero. But we see the detailed work information about the work resource Plasco. There are 5 units having 540 planned work hours. We haven't defined any overtime yet, therefore this field is 0. Its baseline work value is 540. Since there is no progress yet, actual work is 0, and as a result, remaining work value is 540 hours. Let's say we have talked to Plasco and they said they could work overtime in order to decrease the duration. Since 5 workers will work on this task, each working 9 hours per day, we will need 5 times 9, 45 hours of overtime work to decrease the duration by 1 day. Let's enter 45 into overtime work field. Okay, as you see, total work hours didn't change. By entering 45 hours into overtime work field, we said we would do the 45 of 540 hours by working overtime. If we click on OK, we see that the duration of this task is now 11 days. Since its duration is decreased by 1 day, finish date of the project is decreased and now it is 19th of August. Okay, let's cancel the filtering to see the rest of the tasks. To do that, we will click on the View tab, click on Filter, and click on No Filter. Now, we get the rest of the tasks. In this lecture, we have talked about how to deal with delay problems. In the next lecture, we will talk about earned value analysis. So, I will see you there. Thanks for watching. In the previous lecture, we have talked about how to deal with delaying problems. In this lecture, we will talk about how to do earned value analysis in Microsoft Project. Earned value analysis is a very important concept in project management. It is a detailed and a complicated concept, and in order to do earned value analysis in Microsoft Project, you need to know this concept very well. If you know the earned value concepts very well, just go ahead on this lecture. If you are not familiar with earned value concepts, or if you feel like you need to better understand this concept, please go to the bonus section about earned value analysis. In that section, you will find the earned value analysis explanations. Actually, that section is from one of my other courses, but it will help you to understand the earned value concepts very easily. After completing that section, come back here to see how we do earned value analysis in Microsoft Project. Let me hide the task details form first. And I will go to the Gantt chart view. In the previous lectures, we have modified the Gantt chart view to better understand what is happening while we track our project. If you remember, we had one more column over here nearby the percentage complete column. That was physical percentage complete. Since it is time to talk about that column, we will add this column nearby the percentage complete column again. Okay, now let me talk about what is the difference between percentage complete and physical percentage complete. Percentage complete tells us the progress by means of duration. If the duration of a task is 10 days and the actual duration is 4 days, then its percentage complete value will be 40%. But physically, it may or may not be completed by 40%. For example, think about building a wall. Let's say you plan to complete that wall in 10 days. 4 days passed since you start to build this wall. Therefore, percentage complete of this activity is 40%. Assume the total amount of this wall is 100 square meters. Up to now, you have completed 30 square meters of this wall in these 4 days. Therefore, its physical percentage complete value will be 30%. By default, Microsoft Project uses percentage complete value to do the earned value calculations. In the following lecture, we will talk about how to do earned value analysis by using percentage complete value. After that section, we will learn how to do earned value analysis by using physical percentage complete value. So, that's it for this lecture. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. By default, Microsoft Project uses percentage complete value to do the earned value calculations. In this lecture, we will talk about how to do earned value analysis by using percentage complete value. In Microsoft Project, there are some tables dedicated to earned value analysis. To see what these tables are, let's go to the View tab. Here in the Data group, click on Tables and More Tables. As you see, there are 3 earned value tables by default. Earned value cost indicators, and earned value schedule indicators. Let's select the earned value first. Here we have PV, the planned value, EV, the earned value, AC, the actual cost, SV, the schedule variance, CV, the cost variance, EAC, estimate at completion, VAC, baseline cost or budget, and VAC, variance at completion. We see that earned value calculations are already done automatically. Before looking at these tables, we need to be sure that we are done with the following three requirements. First of all, we need to be sure that we have assigned all of our resources and costs of our project. This analysis won't work until we have done that. Second, we need to be sure that we have created and saved our baseline. We have already done that. And third, we need to be sure that we have started our project and we have done some of the work on the project. If either one of these three requirements is missed, earned value analysis either will not work at all, or worse, some of the data calculated by Microsoft Project will be meaningless or misleading. Since we are done with all of these three requirements, we can now talk about the results we get. PV, EV, and AC values of excavation work of building A are equal to each other since everything is completed as it is planned. This is why SV, CV, and VAC are all 0. PV and EV values of excavation work of building B are equal to each other since this is a completed task. But AC is $3,600 and it is greater than planned value. Therefore, we have spent more than we have planned. This is why CV equals to $1,350. Since EV equals to PV, SV equals to 0. As you see, we can make comments about the progress of each activity. Performance indexes give us more information about the progress of the project. To see the cost indexes, we will click on the tables, more tables, and double click on earned value cost indicators. Now we have the cost indicators of our project. Here, only the CV percentage may seem unfamiliar to you. This is the CV divided by earned value. If you hover on this column, it says this indicates the variance between how much it should have cost to how much it has actually cost to achieve the current level of completion up to the steady state or today's date. In short, it shows us the magnitude of the cost variance in terms of percentage. There is one more table about earned value analysis. Let's click on tables, more tables again. Now we will double click on earned value schedule indicators. Here we have PV, EV, SV, SV percentage, and SPI. Just like CV percentage, SV percentage is the magnitude of the schedule variance in terms of percentage. Now, we know how to do earned value analysis by using percentage complete value. In the next lecture, we will talk about how to do it by using physical percentage complete value. I will see you there. Thanks for watching.